Today, we're going to dive into something called ego dissolution. It's a really fascinating and honestly a deeply personal journey that kind of challenges the very core of who we think we are.
Seriously, just think about that for a second. There's that voice inside your head, right? The one that's constantly telling you who you are, what you've done, where you're headed. But what if that narrator just started to fade away?
To really understand this journey, we first have to get to know the main character of our inner world, the ego.
So the ego isn't some bad guy we have to defeat. It's more like the construct, the mental framework that gives us a sense of who we are from one day to the next. It's the story of me, my wins, my losses, my whole identity. It's kind of like our internal anchor in the world.
But sometimes that anchor comes loose. And we're not talking about a gentle little shift. This is often a pretty profound breakdown, a moment where the story we've been telling ourselves our whole lives just starts to crack.
See, for most of our lives, our identity feels solid. We know who we are. We are a student or a parent, an artist, a professional. We know our role, our likes, our dislikes. We're a defined, pretty predictable character in our own story. Well, ego dissolution kicks in when this solid structure starts to fracture. And this isn't a failure. It's more like a necessary breaking point. The shell has to crack for something new to emerge. It can feel really unsettling for sure, but it's the start of a massive transformation. So, what does this fracturing actually feel like? Let's walk through 7 common signs. Think of them like markers on the path, helping us navigate this kind of weird in-between space.
The first sign, this one often feels the most jarring.
This is a sense of feeling alienated from the person you always thought you were. You might look at old photos or think about past achievements and feel like you're just observing a stranger's life. The emotional ties to your own history just start to fray.
And this leads directly into the second sign.
Your personal narrative, that whole collection of memories and ambitions that wants to find you, it just loses its power. The story of me doesn't seem that important, or maybe even that real anymore. And those future goals that used to drive you, they can suddenly feel completely hollow.
When your story starts to fade, so does your map. It makes sense, right? If your internal map is gone, you're gonna feel lost. This stage is just marked by this deep confusion. The old ways of making decisions and navigating your life, they just don't work anymore, and you're left feeling totally adrift. Okay, now what's really interesting is the paradox that this next sign reveals. As your own sense of self becomes thinner, the boundaries between you and others start to soften. You might find yourself feeling other people's emotions way more intensely, or feeling this profound connection to nature, or to art, or to the world around you. You're disconnected from your old self, but you're way more connected to everything else.
And this new sensitivity, well, it leads to some deeper questions.
The very foundations of your reality start to wobble. Beliefs about success, purpose, relationships, even the nature of reality itself, all these things you just took for granted are suddenly up for examination. Nothing feels certain anymore.
But amidst all that confusion, something really beautiful begins to emerge.
Without the constant chatter of the ego's story, you start to experience these moments of just pure being. It's a profound sense of peace and presence, a feeling of just existing in the now, without being burdened by past regrets or future anxieties.
And finally, the 7th sign, which really points toward a new reality.
So the crucial point is this major shift in perspective. Your personal worries and your own desires, they just shrink in importance. They get replaced by this growing sense of interconnectedness, this understanding that you aren't separate from the world, but you're actually a part of a much larger whole.
So after navigating these signs, you don't just go back to the old you. You emerge into a new way of living, a life that exists beyond the tight confines of that old story.
This chart here really captures the transformation perfectly. That constant fear of judgment, it gives way to authentic expression. The need for other people's validation gets replaced by a quiet inner peace. Instead of being controlled by your past story, you start to live fully in the present. And you move from a sense of being separate to a profound feeling of connection.
So what's the ultimate resolution of this journey? It's not about getting rid of the ego entirely.
The ego is a useful tool for navigating the world, The real transformation is in changing your relationship with it. You stop identifying with the story and you start seeing it simply as a story. You become the witness, not the character. And that's the question this journey really leaves you with. By letting go of the narrator you've always known, you open up the possibility of discovering a self that is so much more vast, more free, and more connected than you ever imagined. What might that look like for you?